What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Thank you for joining me back here on this really mega episode of The Big Thing. Obviously going to recap everything that went down at D23. That's going to take a bit because there's a lot that went down and a lot that happened. But some people are going to say, did it? And it did. But how was it? Was it good? Was it Was it bad? We're talking about all that stuff. We're talking about the stuff with the live action and the animation from Friday. And then we'll obviously talk about the 20th Century Lucasfilm and Marvel panel that happened on Saturday. I was at both of them, and I'll talk about that in great detail, obviously. But the other thing that's really exciting about today's episode was that if you were not aware, you should know now that Cobra Kai Season 5 is now up on Netflix. It came out, and I had an opportunity to speak to the creators, Josh Heald, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Hurwitz, and I have them on this episode. And the first part of it is a non-spoiler. The second part of it is spoiler, so there'll be warning, and as you guys are watching that, be aware. I also have from Cobra Kai, Mary Mouser, who plays Samantha LaRusso. She was in studio, so we'll have her on the show. And then Cobra Kai's not done yet. Sean Kanan, a.k.a. Mike Barnes, is on the show, and his interview is pretty spoiler heavy as well. So there, again, I'll have time codes and things of that nature in here, so you can, if you haven't watched Cobra Kai yet, scroll past it. But the creator is the first part of it is non-spoiler. Mary Mouser gives a little bit of a spoiler, and Sean Kanan as well too. So just a heads up there. So if you notice on the bottom corner here, Carbon Health. Now, Carbon Health, if you didn't know already, Carbon Health came in from when we had them for the Schmoedown Spectacular, and I really enjoyed working with them, and we're working with them again, and I'm excited for it because Carbon Health, what's so awesome about them is they have over 110 locations nationwide. They have over 80 locations in California, the Bay Area, Los Angeles, Sacramento, North San Diego. They have urgent care needs at all locations. They have advanced care for most urgent care facilities. For example, they have the ability to handle x-rays on location, so you don't have to then go somewhere else to get a review and an x-ray. They have primary care in California because, guys, COVID's still a thing. Over 2 million people are tested, and they can administer antivirals if you qualify for it. You can buy at-home antigen tests while you're in the clinics. There's a lot of great stuff that they have, and what I like about them is what they believe is that everyone deserves a healthcare provider who is an active partner supporting you in your efforts to feel better and live healthier. They have care teams that have the support and resources they need to be able to focus on and build a relationship with everybody. So just check it out. Like I said, they have 125 locations nationwide, 80 locations in California, and I'm happy to be working with them. So the main reason as well is I just have people aware of Carbon Health and look them up because they're pretty spectacular, and I'm glad that they're going to be with us for a little bit. All right, and last thing, I want to also thank everybody. Brett's been in here like every day working on this studio and the Amazon wish list. I can't believe how many people contributed to that, and I have a lot of the notes that we will be reading even more. I wrote a bunch of them last week. We're going to read more. It's like there's just more stuff coming, and if you did, please, if you are donating, please put a note so I can thank you. If not, totally understand. It was there for us to put this list together that we can eventually build out. And it was like, if it takes a couple of months, we have stuff that we didn't think we'd have, like these lights or the Nate lights, first-rate Nate. So there's so many different things. We have this. We're gonna have a TV with a logo on it now. It's amazing stuff. So thank you guys so much for that. I appreciate it. All right, let's get into the show. It's a big one, so I want to make sure we get going. It's the big thing. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is a big thing. Monday. Excited to get this going, man. So much to talk about. D23 happened, and it was very highly anticipated, right? It was like, well, what's going to happen? There's going to be some big, massive announcements. There's a lot of hype that was created, maybe warranted or not warranted, but didn't really live up. And I say that more so about the Saturday. I don't think it's fair to say that about the Friday panel. This is because people weren't building up that Friday panel as much as they were, the Saturday Marvel Lucasfilm 20th Century thing, which we'll talk about for sure. That Disney panel on Friday, I think it delivered. I think it delivered pretty heavy, and it had some cool announcements, and I think that it did what people were hoping that Marvel and Star Wars did, except nobody was hyping up that Friday panel, so when it just kind of came and went. But I think, there was a bunch of different projects that were announced, things I had never heard of before, things that I don't know if I was necessarily super hyped about afterwards. But it doesn't mean that I can't see the movie when it comes out and go, oh, wow, I remember when they announced that. And look at that. It's like one of those. That's what happened with Frozen. When Frozen was announced, right? And they had Idina Menzel come out and she sang that song. And I was like, oh, it's a good, really good song. I wonder how that movie's going to do. And then there you go. So I'm wondering if that's the same thing where they had Ariana DeBose come out and close out the event with I think it was, I can't remember the name of the song. The name of the movie was Wish. And I think that's going to wind up being a really big movie. And I actually put her singing that song on the channel. I'll tell you, I'm getting, I guess they just need to coordinate sometimes with the people who are working in that room, because there was a guy who was very helpful when he came in, and he's like, okay, listen, anything that they show footage-wise, we sat down. He's like, footage-wise, trailer-wise, you guys footage-wise and trailer-wise, laptops off, phones off, cannot be on. And we're like, everyone's like, understood for sure. It's like, but any live performances, anybody on stage, fair game, perfect. That guy was great. There was the Steve Rogers the musical that I was recording the next day because it's a live performance. And there's 7 people in front of me recording. And this one woman who was one of the ushers goes, put the camera down. I'm like, no. I said, you can see me in the video. I go, no. Put the camera down. No. They said we can do it. What are you talking about? I said, these 8 people, turn around. There's 8 people recording. And then she just went away. But it's like, just coordinate. And it's hard. I know it's hard. There's so many people, so I don't want to break the lady's chops. But I mean, you just coordinate. Anyway, but it was the performances were fantastic all the way around. But in D20, the Friday panel, getting in there, and what was the big announcement I think that I felt was Amy Poehler coming out announcing that Inside Out 2 was coming out, because it was kind of rumored and they didn't know if it was going to happen. And she comes out and she announces it. She hits the stage, and that's all she wrote. That was a big announcement. So I'm glad that happened. And then they also, maybe some of these were announced that I didn't know about. I was surprised they didn't do anything with Percy Jackson at all. That was one I was surprised they didn't do. The live action sentiment of the Disney Plus portion of it. I was surprised they didn't have anything on that. Oh, that's not what I needed. Sorry, hold on. I'm going to try to find some of these. I have something where I'm going to do. Where is it? I want to see if I can get to the actual, there it is. Some Dark Horizons. Let's see some of the stuff that I have here. So they have, I guess there's a teaser trailer for Disney's Percy Jackson series. I'm surprised they didn't have anything at all. I guess that came out today, that trailer. That's probably why. I wonder why they didn't do that. Very interesting. There's so much to talk about on that Saturday panel, so let's try to get to that. But and then they had that they had the Lion King prequel. He talked about this Mufasa, Lion King. Barry Jenkins came out, talked about it. Where is it? It's a prequel to 2019's live action. And there's a little teaser. I don't know what people showed, but they showed a little bit of a teaser of them coming out there showing the whole thing with Timba, what's his name, Pumbaa, and I don't remember their names anyway. The freaking pig and the muskrat. And they came out and they as Rafiki was telling the story, He's like, oh, we're not in this thing? He's like, yeah, it was a long time ago. And I like this idea of it. And I know there's some people who don't like the Lion King remake, right? Because, well, why it's the same movie. And it is. I don't disagree with that. I liked it, though, for what they did with the technology. But I find this one fascinating, well, A, because it's Barry Jenkins, B, because it's original story now, and they're going to have a lot of the like some new music and everything, too. So I'm excited about this Mufasa one. Snow White was the other one that I thought was interesting. I think Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler as Snow White, but Gal Gadot is the evil queen. Pretty good. I think that's a good remake. I know there's been a ton of different Snow Whites, but that could be one that's pretty good. Other ones that I think are anything really worth talking about. They did that. I was it the Lost Planet or something with Jake Gyllenhaal. Was the other one that they talked about, or something Planet? I can't remember what the hell it was. I don't remember. But then, Little Mermaid. That was the big one, Little Mermaid. So what they did show was Halle Bailey singing the song, we saw the full song. Now, I think that the look of it's a little jarring. I can get used to it. The hair definitely seems like a wig, but her singing, holy moly, man, holy moly, she can sing. She sang that song and put a new spin on it, and it was they showed the whole song. It was pretty fantastic. I've never been a massive Little Mermaid fan, and I know, blasphemy in general. So when it was announced, I was like, yeah, it makes sense. They're just going to remake all their classic stuff. But we'll see how it comes out, man. We'll see how it comes out. But let's move to that Saturday panel. Then they had Disenchanted and other things too. Like I said, I think that. Oh, what I will say is this. They started out the convention on Friday with you're talking about freaking Pinocchio, and it was like crickets in there when they brought that movie up. Movie's not good. It's just not a good movie. There's a lot of different problems with it, but it's just not good. It's a bummer too because I love Zemeckis and Tom Hanks, but it's a bad movie. But they just start the whole presentation with "When You Wish." It was great performance, but man, it's just not a good movie. And just it didn't take the energy out of the room. It's just like, okay, cool, let's hopefully your projects you announced now are better than that one. And that was it. And that was Friday. But Friday left us going, all right, well, the presentation was pretty good. And it's been like that over the course of a couple of years. I remember a few times I've said to myself, I think that the animation and the live action panel had more surprises and more announcements than that Saturday panel that was hyped up, because that panel's always hyped up to be. And people are always going to say this thing, right? They're always going to say, well, and I saw this by a bunch of people that I like, a bunch of people I don't know. But I disagree with the sentiment of like, well, people are just expecting Marvel and Lucasfilm to do all this stuff, and no one says that they have to do this stuff. It's like, come on. It's like, when it's built up this particular way, and you're sitting there and you're ready for when you have something like Marvel, the Comic-Con that comes out, and there's these big announcements that are dropped, and afterwards when they're like, okay, well, they held back a little bit. This is what the media says. Well, they held back because D23 is really where they want to put that shine on. And they really want to pump up that D23. So they want to get everybody there. And that narrative was out there for a while. I've always been under the public, over the understanding, to me anyway, that if someone has expectations of a thing that I'm doing, and people start building it up and saying all this stuff, I would make a statement and say, look, especially if Kevin Feige, if Kevin Feige knew that all these rumors were coming out about the Fantastic Four, should have said up top, look, I'm letting people know right now, we're not announcing the Fantastic Four cast. It's not going to happen. It's a rumor that's coming out. It's not happening. We're not doing that. And then they're like, okay, there's no expectations on it at all, because it is a pain in the ass that the media leaks this stuff and they put it out there, but it's also a way to stop the expectations right away, because D23 is Disney's big thing that I still think that they should go all out, and they should give you not the kind like Star Wars. To me, on that Saturday panel, my opinion of it was, I thought that they should have. I know why they closed with Avatar. They closed with Avatar because James Cameron is royalty, and James Cameron probably was like, I ain't closing for Marvel and Star Wars. I mean, I ain't opening for Marvel and Star Wars. I'm closing this show, and it ain't 2009 anymore. People were more excited when they were waiting for Marvel in that room. They were waiting for Marvel. And when they closed with Avatar, everybody was like, okay. And it went on for a while. And I liked the stuff that I saw, the scenes that I saw for Avatar. I'm one of the few Avatar fans out there. Now, I think everybody feels like they just want to hate on that movie to hate on it. I actually really enjoy it. And I think the frame ratio for Avatar 2 is going to be tough for people to get used to. But it was so fascinating. And the underwater stuff was incredible. But I still think they should have opened with it. Open with it, put the glasses on, do a half an hour, 40 minutes of it, because it was supposed to be 2 hours, and I think the whole panel was like 230, 240. So you start with Avatar, you start with Century, then bring out Lucasfilm, and because, again, I'm going to go in the order that I thought that it should have went in, and even reviewed the stuff as it happened. Like, as I said, with Avatar, I thought that the stuff looked really good. I think the story, it did feel like I was put right back into Pandora, which is what I wanted to feel, and the music was there. And I wonder who's doing it now that James Horner passed away. But it still had that James Horner. They were paying homage to him, and his tones were there, and it looks like they're going to have to. Jake is taking care of his family now, and he doesn't want to get into the war. It's a lot of familiar themes that we'd seen in the original, but it's just, again, getting back to Pandora and what's going to happen in these particular scenes. It's really about family, and it's a lot of the kids are involved as well too. But personal opinion, you should have started with that. You should have started with Avatar, and then you move to Lucasfilm. Now, out of the three, I thought Lucasfilm, minus Indiana Jones and Willow. Really, Willow looks interesting to me, and I'm excited for it. But I think we didn't see that full trailer for it at Celebration, but we saw a lot of it. I still think that Willow should not have been at Celebration. I think it took up time from the Star Wars stuff, and I think that D23 was a perfect place for Willow because of it being on Disney Plus and it not being part of the Star Wars universe. And I think just because Warwick Davis is such a staple of Star Wars that's why they did it. But I don't think Willow should have been at Star Wars Celebration. It's Star Wars Celebration, not Lucasfilm Celebration. So for that particular reason, and I also think it just took a little bit out of it because you're expecting Willow to come out. Willow looks like a really good fantasy series that they're using the technology of today to further it, and I think it looked pretty good. So I don't want to take that away from Willow because it looked really good. I just don't think that many people are as excited about it. People are curious about it, but not as excited about it, right? And then Indiana Jones stole the show, hands down. The trailer looks great. There's a back and forth, and I think Mike Kalinowski and I don't know where he is now. I don't even think he's seen the trailer for it, but I think after Crystal Skull, he's like, let's put it to rest. And I'm like, not if Mangold's doing it. Let's go if Mangold's doing it. Look at what Mangold has done, whether it was Ford vs. Ferrari or Logan or I mean, tons of movies that this guy's done. Copland, tons of movies that he's done that have just been great. And when he was announced to be involved, and I love Spielberg, man, but I think there's a certain thing about Spielberg sometimes with the big, over-the-top. I think that sometimes he blends a little bit. I don't know. And it's Spielberg's stories, the more personal ones now, are the ones to me that work better than the big blockbuster ones for Spielberg. And I think Mangold is just playing at a different level right now. And I'm not taking anything from Spielberg. It's Spielberg. And West Side Story to me was fantastic. One of his best movies. That was great. But Mangold doing this, I was excited for it. And I said the tone is, in my head, I said the tone's got to be significantly different than what we saw in Crystal Skull. And from this trailer that we saw, it seems like that's exactly the case. The music pops in with John Williams at one point, and it looked like an Indiana Jones movie. It didn't look too cheesy. There was humor in it. But it was like Indiana. I felt, as I always said when I watched Crystal Skull, I felt like Harrison Ford was just trying to do bits. Like when he falls into that Jeep in the beginning and he's just like, damn, I thought it was closer or whatever he said. And the Russians looking at him. Like it was like again, like a sketch comedy show. Not this. There's some humor in it, but it was Indiana Jones humor, the same kind of Last Crusade humor, which I thought was great. So if it hadn't been for Indiana Jones, I think that, and then I put it up on the channel. I got Harrison Ford giving a very emotional speech about doing this movie and how impassioned he was talking about it. Had it not been for the Indiana Jones portion of it, I think the Lucasfilm portion would have been an absolute bust, because the Star Wars stuff was, if you had been at Celebration, if you're at D23 and you didn't know anything about Celebration, then no. But for media purposes and news-wise, it's all stuff that we had heard about. There was nothing new. Even the Mandalorian thing that they released, Jon Favreau's like, this is the first trailer that anyone's seeing. It's like, it was essentially the same trailer, just a little edited, maybe a couple different images, but for the most part, the same trailer that we saw at Celebration. For the most part, there was nothing really new. Ahsoka, they didn't reveal any cast at all, and they just leaked someone just leaked or reported on as the new Ezra being cast. Ezra Bridger was cast, and they didn't announce that. They didn't announce Thrawn. They didn't announce anything about that. They didn't even show the teaser trailer. They didn't even show the teaser trailer that they showed at Celebration. They showed nothing. Just moved away from it. Then they brought it. Then they talked about Skeleton Crew. They brought John Watts out and the other producer who's involved in it. And we don't really have any show because we haven't started filming yet. But here's Jude Law to talk about it. And then we got John Watts involved. Skeleton Crew. We knew about Skeleton Crew. We heard about it already. So there was nothing. And we knew about Jude Law. Nothing. And the Acolyte has just been ignored. I don't know what the hell's going on with the Acolyte. That's like my most anticipated series. There's leaks or reports coming out about cast members. They don't even mention it. They didn't even mention the Acolyte at all. They didn't even say we got another show coming out called The Acolyte that we're working on right now. Nothing. It was the second time that they've ignored the Acolyte. They ignored it at Celebration, and they ignored it again at D23. I was like, what the hell's going on? I knew that the movies weren't going to be announced at all. I mean, that was a very outside chance, but that they were going to talk about Taika's movie, or they didn't even mention the movies at all. No, Bad Batch. The smart announcement was that Bad Batch is coming out in January. They moved it. Thank God. That would have been silly for them to stomp on it with Andor. Oh, Andor. They opened with Andor, which was understandable considering it's coming out in like 2 weeks. So when they opened with that, I was like, that makes sense. And they showed a couple things, and I think everybody's hyped up for Andor, and they had Diego Luna come out and talk about it and everything. And again, it was Andor and Mandalorian, which was the heavy cast stuff. Katie Sackhoff was out there, and Giancarlo Esposito, among other people, were out there talking, and it was the same thing. And so that's my pushback when people are like, well, what'd you expect? No, there were no expectations on it. You should know expectations on, but change it up a little bit. Change it up a little bit. I think you should give somebody, especially, I think for smart business wise, you want to have some reports. There were no new announcements in the Star Wars side of it at all. I mean, Tales from the Jedi, again, I saw that. I hadn't seen the trailer before. Looks great, and then they released it to the public. I think that series looks fantastic. That's the animated series with young Ahsoka and Dooku and all that. This episode's going to be really long today. It's a big thing episode. I'm looking at it down and realizing this. But anyway, it was a good trailer. But they showed that trailer already, and then they released it to the public. So I thought that the Star Wars stuff was really disappointing, and I think that they needed to hit. Marvel, I mean, look, Marvel didn't. It was Marvel disappointing. Marvel showed a lot of stuff, and they showed a lot of exclusive stuff. And did they announce the Fantastic Four cast like people thought they did? No. Did they announce any new major movies or projects, minus the Werewolf by Night thing or whatever it was? No. But they had a pretty big showing at Comic-Con. People go, oh, Lucasfilm had a pretty big showing at Star Wars Celebration. Lucasfilm is in the position that Marvel's in. Lucasfilm needs to hit every time they come out right now. And they're just not hitting. When it comes to Star Wars, they hit with Indiana Jones. There's no doubt about it. They hit with that, and it closed out strong with that. But it was just every single thing that was happening with the Star Wars stuff. I was like, I mean, they didn't announce. I was kind of glad by this, but other people thought they were going to announce Book of Boba Fett season 2. They didn't announce that. They didn't announce anything. I thought the Star Wars portion was a bummer. I really did. All right, before we move on to the Marvel portion of it, let's talk about MyBookie. Let's talk about MyBookie here. MyBookie. Now, if you guys, obviously, another big thing that happened this week was the football season. Now the Chargers and the Chiefs prepare for battle on the AFC West on Thursday night. Prepare for your winning season at MyBookie. Some like to bet to earn, and some like to bet to make the season more exciting. Either way, MyBookie gives you the most for your money with a double deposit bonus. It's quick and it's easy. It's a $250 deposit. You put $500 in your account instantly, and you can use your funds to bet on as many games, contests, and props as you want. But to claim your bonus, you got to register today and use that promo code BIGTHING. It's designed to add more excitement to the games and the sports that you love. That's promo code BIGTHING to double your money up on $1,000 with MyBookie. It's only week 2 of the NFL season, which means there's still plenty of time to get in on the action. Don't miss out on this. Begin your winning season today. It's exclusively at MyBookie. Get that app and use Big Thing. You'll be thanking me. Okay, so let's talk about the Marvel portion of it, right? There was a lot. There was a lot at Marvel. There was the Secret Invasion thing that I thought was great. What I did like about the Marvel stuff that I saw was that there was a tone down in a lot of the comedy, at least in the trailers anyway, right? So I'm just going to talk about a lot of the stuff that stood out to me, because as I go through it in my head, there was a lot of stuff that Marvel showed. It's just that I think that where I'll start to lean on some of the criticisms of people going, well, maybe you expect too much. Maybe we do expect too much from Marvel. Maybe we do. I'm not gonna go into that same philosophy with Star Wars. I think Star Wars at this point needs to hit a little harder than they are. But with Marvel, I mean, they give a lot of exclusive stuff, and that was ultimately what D23 is about, right? And they showed some more. They showed some footage stuff. They showed some art. They showed some things that a lot of people didn't see. I don't know, the Marvel's the trailer they showed, which that one to me had the lighter tones and the most comedy out of all of them. But I think I liked Ms. Marvel a lot, and I hope that it actually centers on her more so than. And I think that I like both Rambo and Carol Danvers, but I think that Kamala should be the one who is the focus, because she's just so endearing, and I loved having her out on stage and her talking and everything too. But they showed that. They showed. I mean, there was so much that they showed. So, but the stuff that stood out, obviously, the Thunderbolts. Some people were bitching about the cast of the Thunderbolts, as I saw, and I don't have enough information to neither bitch or to praise, because I don't have enough information about it, to be honest. People were saying that there were the other people that should have been announced, and other people, and I don't know enough about it. I saw the image and I said the image looks fine. I don't know anything about it. They also showed, was it Echo? They showed Ironheart. Echo I was a little bit more familiar with because I watched Hawkeye, and having that presentation, and then bringing back Kingpin, obviously, and then having Kingpin himself, Vincent D'Onofrio, stay up there. Charlie Cox comes out. They talked about Daredevil and how that was coming. And there was, so that's why I do think there was a lot that Marvel did at that panel. There really was. There was a lot that they did. It just, I think people were expecting them to announce, the Fantastic Four cast. And the tease of that was they confirmed the director, same dude from WandaVision, but then he's like, but that's all we got. And that was like, it's between, if they announced that, and then the other part of it is very similar, and it's funny, it's also involves Henry Cavill again. I feel the same way about Henry Cavill, the DC. The emphasis was that DC was going to announce Henry Cavill as Superman at Comic-Con, and it never happened. And people were mad about it. And I said, you can't get mad at DC because they never promised that. It's the same thing here. You can't get mad at Kevin Feige for not announcing Denzel Washington and Cavill and all those. They never promised that. So I get that. I understand that argument behind it. But it's also okay for the people who were in the room going, okay, the stuff that we saw was really good, interesting, but it didn't blow me away the way that I thought it would. I think that's a fair criticism. It's not fair for people to say, well, you had these expectations, so it's your fault you're let down. Yeah, but they're my expectations. And it was like, if I go into a movie hoping that I'm going to get one particular thing, and I don't, I can't get mad at you for not having those, for not feeling the same way. If you were excited about it and you liked what you saw, I can't get mad at you for that. You know, oh, I can't believe that you liked it. I can't believe you liked it. They let us down. You should be let down. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I was let down by certain things, like Lucasfilm. I think people sometimes just put their flag in the ground and go, well, this is what you expect, and because you expected it, you were let down, and that's your problem. It is my problem, but let it be my problem. You don't need to call it out and say this. You enjoy what you like. If you thought this was the greatest panel in the world, and you thought that they hit everything and everything you were expecting them to do, is it what are you going to break other people's chops for if they don't? As long as they do it respectfully. That's my opinion on it. But anyway, there was a lot. I mean, Michael Giacchino came out and talked about it. I mean, a lot of people like that Werewolf by Night thing. I don't think it's necessarily my cup of tea. I saw what he was doing with it. He was going kind of old school 50s monster movie style with it. Very different. Just didn't think it's not like my thing. But that's not me. That doesn't mean it's going to be bad. I think it could be pretty interesting. It's different. What else was there? I mean, there's a lot of other things that I'm sure that I'm missing out on. They showed the She-Hulk. They showed She-Hulk, the Daredevil. That's what they did. So Charlie Cox said, "Listen, we don't have any footage yet for Daredevil because we haven't started shooting it, but we do have something." And they showed a scene with Daredevil and She-Hulk from an upcoming episode of She-Hulk, and I felt good watching it because so I didn't like the last episode of She-Hulk. The first time I watched it, my initial reaction, I was like, okay, I can see kind of what they're doing. And then I watched it again for the spoiler review, and I was like, yeah, I really didn't like this episode. And I began worried. I'm like, I hope they don't kind of cheese up Daredevil now for this show and give him the same kind of thing they did with Wong, actually. And I'm like, let's see. Because Daredevil, the character was sarcastic, and the character could be funny in the Netflix series. So it's not that. It's just, is he going to be not consistent with how he was in the past? And the scene that they showed is pretty consistent from what I saw, the way Charlie Cox was playing it. I thought Matt Murdock was absolutely Matt Murdock from what I'd seen from Netflix. And it looks like She-Hulk's got the hots for him from what I was noticing in the scene. But yeah, that's the majority of it. Unless Secret Invasion looks pretty good. They had a scene. I think they released it. It was actually released. The scene between Cheadle and Fury, and then it leads into it again. The more serious tone. A lot of the stuff that they showed, Echo looked more serious. Secret Invasion looked more serious. So a lot of these things look more serious, which I was kind of digging. See if there's any more that I missed. See. No, I think that's everything, right? Majority of stuff. Where is it? It is, Loki season 2. Loki season 2 was another one that popped up. Loki season 1 was probably my favorite of the Marvel series so far. So when they showed 2, when they showed Ant-Man. But I think that was the same thing, because Ant-Man, they didn't show any Guardians stuff. That was the one I was upset about. Because they did show Guardians at Comic-Con, and Guardians at Comic-Con was even more back from when the actual release is, and they didn't show Guardians. They didn't show that trailer for Guardians that everybody was raving about. So that was what I was bummed about, because I really wanted to see that trailer. Loki was the one that they showed. Echo, Daredevil stuff, Werewolf by Night, Black Panther 2. Can't forget about Black Panther 2. That was they showed an exclusive look from Black Panther 2, which they showed the scene from when Angela Bassett comes out and she's at the hearing. And she's pissed off, and it said, I think it leads probably what they didn't show that snippet, but when she's talking about how she lost her son, she lost everything, but they kind of cut back and forth between, I guess, some military trying to steal vibranium and them showing that just because Black Panther's gone doesn't mean that Wakanda is weak. And they had a great scene that led into this, and they showed a lot of Namor, and they showed more stuff that was happening. They brought Namor out later. So Black Panther 2 is becoming a very, very highly anticipated movie for me. And Ryan Coogler was out there talking, and then that's when he introduced Ironheart afterwards. That's how that kind of led into that. So again, even if I hear myself say all this stuff, they did show a lot of stuff and a lot of exclusive stuff. So that's why, as much as I say that maybe they didn't punch as hard, I did a poll on my Twitter, and I said, what did you think overall of the panels? Did you think it was great, good, meh, or just bad? I won't rate it just bad, because I think from all the exclusive, I think that if you paid a ticket to D23 and you went there for that, they showed you a lot of stuff. They showed you a lot of stuff. You got a lot of stuff that a lot of people didn't get. And you saw a lot of exclusive stuff. And that's what I thought D23 does very well, is that you paid for that ticket, you got certain things that the rest of the world didn't. There's certain stuff that the world did get, but you got a lot of exclusive stuff. You got performances, you got the Steve Richards, the musical, all that stuff as well. So, I mean, yeah, you got to say, for me, I would say it was good, because if you're paying a ticket, did you get your money's worth? I think you did. Now, on a media side of it, I could go meh on a media side, but as far as paying your ticket, did you get it? Now, Lucasfilm brings it down. Lucasfilm was a meh, and had it not been for Indiana Jones, might have been bad. 20th Century was good. I thought Avatar delivered. Now, I think that the Disney stuff was good and almost great. So all that combined, I would say it's pretty good. It was a long look. That was just, like I said, it's going to be a mega episode today. That was just one portion of this. I got so much Cobra Kai stuff coming up. I'm going to start with an interview with Mary Mauser. But before we do that, I wanted to let you guys know, Athletic Greens, they're back, everybody. I'm so excited Athletic Greens is back. You guys know how much I love Athletic Greens. I've been using Athletic Greens for a while now, since we've had them, and they're back again. And one of the reasons they're back is because I've gotten all the positive feedback from you guys, and every single time, William Hogg is someone who's a listener of the show and has been for a very long time, said, hey, I'm going to try some Athletic Greens. Been trying it, has been energized, and I'm so excited that people have been trying it. And I keep getting people who are telling me how much they use it and love it. So I'm excited to have them back, and I'm excited that the audience is using them. And I'm excited that the audience, I've heard on people on other shows bring up Athletic Greens, and they said, I've heard Athletic Greens through the Big Thing, and they use the Big Thing code because they know that Athletic Greens is now synonymous to the Big Thing. How about that? And I use them every day. I started using them because I wanted more of that boost of energy, and I didn't have all the. I wanted to have better gut health and more energy. I wanted to optimize the immune system. I wanted all of it. I was never all the different pills. I wanted one shot and something that tasted good, and that's what I got. I'm using it for months now. You just take one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, and you take 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, source superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens, all of it, and you start your day off right. I love it. I do it, I take it in the morning. I shake it up in a water bottle. It's great. It benefits my lifestyle because it just gives me that boost of energy, and it's got a fruity taste to it. I recommend it to all my friends, my family. I take it with me. If I took it out with me to Anaheim when I went to D23. It's awesome. It supports better sleep quality and recovery. It supports mental clarity and alertness. It costs you less than $3 a day, and you invest in your health, and it's cheaper than that cold brew habit. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews, and it's recommended by professional athletes. So reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just one scoop in a cup of water every day. It's all you have to do. You don't need a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right. So, and by the way, just before we get into all our Cobra Kai stuff here, I've wanted to thank you to everybody. When I announced that I was going out on my own, as I mentioned earlier in the show, so many of you went to that Amazon gift list, and so many of the notes that I got is people saying, "Oh, I've been watching you for years. Thank you for the content. Here's something for the studio," and it's so humbling and it's so nice. So thank you for that. For people who have just signed up for the Patreon, I did some a few of those one-on-one 30-minute sessions already. That getting to know some more of those patrons. We just did the Clerks rewatch that we're putting up on the channel today, and PLD has been helping me out. So if you've become a patron, thank you for doing that. If you put a like on this video, if you've put a comment on any video before, thank you. If you've subscribed to this channel before, thank you. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of that stuff, and especially for sponsors. If you were like, hey, you know what? I've always wanted to try Athletic Greens, and to support the show, I'm going to get Athletic Greens today. Thank you. I want to make sure that that's something I don't think is said a lot of times to the audience when it is, I understand what it's like when you're listening to stuff and you have entertainment. I also understand what it's like when you're putting in that $1 to support somebody, when you're putting in that $5 to support somebody, when you're buying very expensive lights for somebody to help their studio out. I know what that's like. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I also want to thank people for watching Cobra Kai and being part of this one, because this is exciting. Cobra Kai season 5. I started the episode, the season, and I was watching the first two episodes. And I'm like, okay, am I going to dig this? And is it becoming a lot of the same old stuff? And then it just kicks into gear, and I thought it was just a fantastic season. So the first interview that I got here is Mary Mauser. Now, I've had the opportunity of talking to her a few different times. She's a sweetheart. She's just so cool. She plays Samantha LaRusso, and she has a big story arc this season. So Perry Nemiroff actually brought her into the studio, and Perry interviewed her for Ladies' Nights, which I'm sure you can find on Collider now, and you recognize a certain studio. But she stuck around, and I had an opportunity to talk to her for a little bit, and here's my interview right now with Mary Mauser. All right, as I said, it is Cobra Kai heavy. Well, you know it would be with me. And I am so excited because once again, I get a chance to chat with Mary Mauser, who I met at Collider Live recently I was at the Nokia Theater for Netflix as a Joke. Just not only one of the most warm people that you can meet, but one of the most competitive people I think I've ever met in my life. That trivia battle was intense, man. How are you, by the way?
Thank you very much. I'm great. I will take being competitive. I think my castmates know that's but the problem is being competitive and also notoriously like a little terrible at everything. I'm like a jack of all trades, right? Hopefully, but maybe more of like a 10 or like a 9.
I think the competitive actually plays really well into what you're doing every season, because you've said it many times over, and I talked to you about this at the Nokia, was that when it came to the karate, at first it was like something that you were interested in, and then I've said it on the air through my reviews, I think you progressed so much. Like this season, I saw stunt doubles in the first couple. Like I could see when the stunt doubles are. Now I'm like, wait a minute, that's Mary doing all this stuff now. So tell me about that, just the progression of learning martial arts and how it seems like you're having a lot of fun doing it too, by the way.
I do. I have such a blast. I am absolutely, like, if you can be a geek for a really badass sport, that's me. I'm a geek for karate.
I love that.
I full on, like, I'm begging to get to have, as much time as possible training, and our incredible team has been so supportive, and that's made this huge difference for me over those last couple of seasons. Was I got these opportunities, and I got the time. And our team, we have Ken Bearfield and Don Lee and Selkie Hom, who I have worked with so much at this point that it feels like this kind of, we get to grow and we get to keep challenging, me and getting to challenge Samantha by that. I have had such a blast with the martial arts aspect. I have so much fun with it, but it is something I take very seriously, and I think that was the first thing that, like, really these last 2 seasons, especially like Selkie and Dawn have been so on me about, stances and things, and getting to break it down and like spend in our off time learning a kata and learning these things that are the building blocks of karate, and in a very Miyagi-Do-esque way. Getting to work on the building blocks of karate has made all of the crazy fun, crazy cool kicks that we get to do and things like that so much more real and grounded, and I feel stronger in what I'm doing and in my knowledge of what I'm doing, and that makes me want to work harder.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so effective in general, because you can tell if someone's just kind of half-assing it or if it's not really there. It's like it's not viable from an audience point of view, and it is, and it's especially this season because it has to be. And I like how it's funny because I was like a major, like, that's why I bonded with the guys so much when they created the show and they came in the first time and I was like, Karate Kid, yeah, what are you talking about? Let me see it. And I told them the same thing. I was like a lot of people, doubtful at first. I'm like, is this somebody else just going to milk a popular thing and then it's not going to have no love? And that was the farthest thing from it. But watching it progress, and this season, it's got this different vibe to it than it had in season 1, right? There was like, I like how like heightened the whole thing is. So people are doing, at first I was like, would these people be able to backflip off trees? And like after season 1, and like now, I mean, yeah, they better be backflipping off trees. So this big tournament, but I got it chosen.
Yes.
Tell me about working. I mean, with he comes in and I'm like, okay, for the first season that he popped in, I'm like, that's fun. But he's such a powerhouse in this one. Tell me about that.
I mean, Yuji's incredible,
Yeah.
and getting to work with him on, in the world of what we do, he's an incredible actor, which was awesome. It was so great to get to see what he's doing and to learn from it, and then to also get to interact with him, and have that layer. So exciting. And the fact that he also is just absolutely killer at, looking like a freaking ninja. He really does. He takes it over, and he's so strong, and getting to see that side and learn from that side of him. I mean, he was literally giving me tips in between, put your foot here and pivot your weight here and things like that were very, is very like a sensei dynamic, which was really cool. I respect him so much and was so grateful for the opportunity to get to work with him. And he's the coolest, chillest dude. Like, he's
hilarious
so quiet.
too, yeah.
And yeah. Like he's quiet on set. He was very observant. He was respectful. And I was like, oh no, maybe he's like really as intimidating as he is on the show. But no, and then he starts cracking you up in between, and you're like, oh yeah, no, we're good. We're chilling.
I love that. And I think that's one of the things that this show has always been so special about, because it can do those moments where you have the serious moments and then the silly moments. But the thing that I think the reason why the show has continued to pop is because, perfect example of this is that there is the older folk like myself who grew up with it, and then you have the younger generation, but they're all interesting. It doesn't matter. Like, I respond very much to your storylines. Like, it's not just like, I just want to see Daniel and Johnny. That is not the case. I'm like, where's Miguel and Sam? What's going on? I'm like, my heart's breaking. No, pick up the stat. Pick up the necklace.
The necklace.
No, the necklace. So all of that, but it's like, are you constantly like surprised and kind of overwhelmed with how good the guys are kind of writing for? I know that you have a lot to do also with your character and stuff too, but just how welcoming it is for actors, these scripts.
Absolutely. I mean, this is such a uniquely incredible experience that I've gotten to have. I mean, as an actor, like I said, and then also as a human, I feel like I'm constantly getting to learn from, I feel like I'm going to walk away from this project, hopefully, maybe never. I'd love to just have it last forever. But, if the fates align and that's what happens, it's, I get to walk away from this having learned so much from every one of these individuals, having learned from Josh, John, and Hayden what it is to be creators, showrunners, have your hands all in it, and to know it backwards, forwards, and to care about it so deeply. That's something that, I never thought about in my life going behind the camera. I always was very adamant. People would be like, oh yeah, you're working toward getting to direct, you're working toward getting to write, right? And I was always like, no, not for me. Now, getting to see the way that they've done this, I'm like, oh, I have things that I'm that passionate about. And imagine if I could get to find this many other people who are passionate and excited like I am. And imagine if I got to do something that's this crazy
inspiring.
Cool, like what they've created, and working with Ralph and Billy and getting to see how they've taken these characters that they knew so well for all these years and like let people into that world and have influence and have conversations in that way is just insane to me. That's very brave, and it's something that I hope that I could take away from it.
Well, you're essentially going to school when you're there, right? Even though you're doing your work and you're growing as a character and you're adding all this stuff, as you just said, I think you're learning other aspects that you never even thought you would. Yeah. And that's really interesting how whenever it does, let's. I hope the show goes until season 50, but whenever it does, you'll have those moments that you take those experiences for whatever the next thing is that you're doing for sure. So it's great to hear you say that. But the reason I brought up the generational thing too is that my daughter right now is obsessed with like the Disney shows, and she's 10, so she's just discovering Peyton. So.
Boy.
So she, or whatever, is it Nickelodeon? I can't remember. I remember what
Disney.
It was Disney. It was Disney.
I
Okay.
think every one of the young group of us, other than Sholo, had done Disney before.
Okay, so she is obsessed with these shows that because I keep seeing Peyton on my TV everywhere. I'm like, you watching Cobra Kai? I told you we have to watch season 1 together. It's like, no, it's not Cobra Kai. And then I was watching the season 5, and she said, she's like, I want to stay up. There's Peyton, and I go, take it easy.
Aww.
We'll watch it together. But it's like, but that's my point, is that it was so smart to combine this all together. And watching you guys grow as actors, I want to talk about Xolo, because when I got a chance to talk to him the first time, he blew me away. He's just such a smart kid. He's just a really good dude. What's it like, the progression with Sam and Miguel, and going through in your relationship with Xolo throughout that time, meeting him for the first time as an actor, and now where they are as characters? Take me to that journey if you can.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm honestly, like, I started like even just tearing up thinking about it, but it's, I mean, that's because that's been the really cool experience. And, and I feel like 5 was such a hallmark number for me, where I'm like, half a decade. We've all known each other half a decade, and that's like trippy to me. But it's also, it's so cool and special to get to look at somebody like Xolo, who I watched, go through. I like our first kiss, he had braces, and then now, right. And now he's towering over me, and we're having this conversation. We're breaking up, and it's like
heartbreaking.
Yes, it's so special, and he's so talented. I mean, that's the amazing thing. All the people that we get to work with on the show are there's not a screw loose. Like, every single person brings it and cares so much to put in the effort to bring it. And working with somebody like him and getting to see that happen over these years is, I mean, it's astonishing, and I feel grateful to get to be a part of it. And truly, like I was saying, in between takes of that scene from season 5 with Sam and Miguel, I was crying. I couldn't stop crying because I was and I kept looking at him, and then I would just start crying again. I'd be like, dude, I don't know how to express this, but this is like exactly what we needed, and this is exactly what I needed, and this is, but oh my God, what does this mean, and what's next? And it was cool. We got to like have this moment where, I mean, it wasn't even scripted. I don't think that either of us cried in that scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it was, we got we were supposed to get a little emotional, but basically, like, we got to that moment of, like, going in for the hug, and he's like, yeah, we can be friends, and I had this moment of thinking back, like, how they had become friends, and that was, she'd had that crappy boyfriend before, and, like, what that was, it's not a date, and we're just gonna be friends, and how that just naturally fell into this, like, wonderful thing for them, and then getting to think that they've gone through a lot, both of them physically, mentally, such trauma for such young people to go through, and then to get to come out of the other side of it and just still like value each other as humans in such a way was really cool and very powerful.
It was, and it's getting me emotional watching you talk about it, because it just shows how much it's very important. And this is what I try to tell when I'm talking to the audience too. It's very important when you're watching something if you can see it. Like, there's so much care and effort put into something. It makes us care. It doesn't matter if it's a television show. It doesn't matter if it's a stand-up comedian. If someone's putting enough effort into it and really love it, it shows. And it can show through the performance, and it's showing with what you guys. So I've said to you many times over when we met in person, thank you for everything that you do on the show. And again, this season was really fun, man. It was and crazy, too. Like, really crazy. I don't want to spoil it for anybody yet, because this is coming out right before it drops. It drops on Friday right now, I believe. So it's Friday or Thursday. Either way, when this is up, you guys are going to be able to watch it on Netflix. Mary Mauser, Sam LaRusso, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to do it again.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everybody. So I told you, really, really big episode here with Cobra Kai. We're going to have the guys on in just a minute, both John, Josh, and Hayden. So stay tuned. See you soon. All right, so there is Mary Mauser from Cobra Kai, and you can see where she talked about the stuff that how much it means to them, how much the show itself means to them, and how much it means to, the emotion that was going on with her, both her and Xolo, for a few of those scenes that were happening. So she's one of the characters that has just evolved so much, and that's what the show has done very well, was be able to take those characters that we've seen since season 1 and evolve them. And they're also able to take newer characters. Like, I thought, like Chosen, who had seen beforehand, Chosen was in one scene. He popped up at the end of season 4, and look, how much is he going to be in this? And man, did he stole the show. He was great. But one of the scenes that he's in is with another character, new character, but an older character from Karate Kid 3, and that's Mike Barnes, played by Sean Kanan. And I had an opportunity to talk to him via Zoom, and they had mentioned, hey, do you want to talk to Sean Kanan? I was like, are you kidding me? Of course. Absolutely. And I had an opportunity to talk to Sean, and we talked about Mike Barnes returning, the bad boy of comedy, Here's my interview with Sean Kanan talking Mike Barnes and his return to Cobra Kai. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I told you, I have been pumping up this interview for a long time on my show, and now it is here. He is the one and only Mike Barnes. He is Sean Kanan. Sir, it is so great to have you and to talk to you finally. I've talked to so many people in the Cobra Kai universe, and I kept saying from the beginning when I talked to John and I talked to Josh and I talked to Hayden, I said, where's Barnes? Where's he coming? What's happening? And I'm sure you got it from the second the show was on the air. Tell me about that first. The second the show.
First of all, thank you for your lobbying for me. I really appreciate it.
I had to, man. I had to.
Every little bit helps, believe me. It's incredible that a role that I played 35 years ago still has so many fans. They were kind of clamoring for the return of Mike Barnes, so I'm humbled and flattered by that. And I would hear probably a couple hundred times a week from fans who are like, "Are you coming back? Are you coming back?"
Well, what they did is what I thought the reason why, maybe more so for your character than anybody else, because the second this show hit and the second it was a hit, then everybody from that universe starts to be rumored. But the difference is that your character's mentioned in season one. They mentioned that. I don't know who Mike Barnes is. I don't know who Terry Silver is. They didn't mention him, but like, well, wait a minute. They mentioned him. So that means something's going on. Do you, at that point, do you ever have a conversation with the guys who are like, well, we have these plans? Or when do you finally hear, hey, man, we'd love for you to come back?
Well, I think once they put the clips of Mike Barnes into, I think, what was this season? Was it 3 or 4?
I think it was 3.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think everything they do is intentional, so I had a pretty good idea that eventually it was going to happen. I think probably June or July of last year, I had a Zoom call with John Hurwitz and with Josh, and they said, okay, it's time. And I was like, yes. I was really excited. And then I started filming pretty soon after. It may have even been August, because it was pretty quick that I was like shooting off to Georgia to go film.
Wow. That's pretty great. So, I mean, here's, as we made sure that we were putting this interview out after the series is dropped, because it's a spoiler that you're back. I mean, even though the picture comes out. So now that for people who haven't, I want to make sure that everybody knows, you haven't watched the season yet, then you shouldn't be watching this interview because you're about to be spoiled. So you've been warned. I think it was very smart the way they did it here, because they released a picture that you're back and they have you in that fighting stance.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, there's the badass that I know. There's karate's bad boy. And then it's a bait and switch. It's a bait and switch. You're a good guy.
It is and it isn't. I mean, one of the things I really liked about this little arc that I had was that it's not just sort of a simple redemptive arc. I mean, yes, I do get the opportunity to apologize to Daniel, which was certainly a long time coming. And we sort of see one aspect of Mike Barnes in episode 3. And then once Terry Silver burns his life down, we see Return of the Bad Boy.
Yes.
And so for me as an actor, it was great because I got to play, the two different poles of this guy.
Well, that's true. You do get to see that thing that we knew from him back in Karate Kid 3, that viciousness, but it's kind of turned towards good. And which is as he's sitting there watching this thing that he built go up in flames, and then he's able to come back. The idea of it, they took all of Daniel's villains, the guys that just bullied him and beat the shit out of him for so long, that they fought together, and the fact that Barnes gets his comeuppance on Silver, it's got to be a lot of fun for an actor to do stuff like that.
A blast.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so much fun. And the one thing that I had requested from the guys, I said, look, when I come back, I'd love for the character not to be this unidimensional character that it was in Karate Kid 3. And that was very much by design. That's very specific to what John Avildsen wanted. And I said, look, let's try and do something that's got some different colors to it, and maybe some humor. And they were just wonderful about that, and I think we were able to do it.
You definitely were. You absolutely were, because I had said, I was like, I wonder if they're gonna have him have this redemption thing because they had done that obviously with Johnny up top and then Chosen.
Yeah.
So I'm like, are they going to do it with Barnes also? And they did. I'm like, okay, well, how's it going to play? And I think that you just nailed it because I was worried about it. It's like, okay, well, he's just going to be good and that's all we're going to see him. And it's like, no, he's got, he's pissed. Right. He's pissed and and you're going to see why he was who he was. But so had you worked with William Zabka before any of this? I mean, I'm sure. Yeah.
I hadn't worked with Billy, but what's interesting about that was in 1988, I was guest starring on a show for Fox Television. It was called Werewolf. And one of Billy's close friends at the time was the other guest star. So Billy came to the set and I was just, it's Billy Zabka. And so I got to know, so I've known Billy since 88.
Oh, wow.
And, we've done Comic-Con stuff throughout the years and, we went to Vegas together, and he's just a fantastic, wonderful, talented guy. And it was such an honor to work with him and Ralph. And we had never worked together before. And, it was really, I think it was kind of hotly anticipated, the meeting of Mike Barnes and Johnny.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that, it's like two Rams kind of locking horns for a second, but then it goes into kind of a mutual respect thing. And for me, the funniest line at least in any of my stuff, is when Johnny says, the bad boy's right.
Absolutely.
Then he calls me the bad boy. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah. And
I'm
it's like
55 years old. He calls me the bad boy.
But it's awesome though, because it's almost, I've talked to, when I talk to the guys, John, Josh, and Hayden about it, there's like Star Wars in there, there's wrestling, there's all these things. And like I don't know if you're a wrestling fan at all, but Barnes did a classic face turn, like a Stone Cold Steve Austin face turn. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. And it's one of those to where he's not going to be kissing babies anytime soon, but he's still going to be doing exactly what he's doing with Johnny. And there's these moments. But the other thing though, is that fight with Chosen up top, and it's like, it's as a hardcore Karate Kid fan, I'm going, I know a million years I can never figure that the villain from 2 is fighting the villain from 3, but they're both not villains. They're both good guys now through maturity and stuff. So that alone, tell me about that scene.
That was amazing. I mean, given the fact that, Chosen is privy to sort of this, arcane knowledge of Miyagi-Do.
Yeah.
I think Mike Barnes held his own pretty well. That was a lot of fun. Yuji is just, he's so much fun, such a great guy. We had a lot of fun doing that. What can I tell you? The fight scenes are always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You always wish they're longer and more and all that, but time is one of the biggest constraints, obviously, in production. But we had a really great time, and I love the fact that it's a complete miscommunication, and I loved the fact that there was humor inserted in the whole thing that culminates with the three of them, these 3 middle-aged guys icing their wounds down, and kind of snarking at each other a little bit while trying to give Daniel the information that he's looking for.
Yeah, and a great tag at the end too that Chosen is beating the shit out of all Mike Barnes' poor employees. And it's all of that though too, because it's also like how mad can Barnes really get when you look at the stuff that he kind of did in his past and the
oh my God.
Yeah. So, but and let's rewind a little bit though to Karate Kid 3, because there's a kind of a mixture with Thomasine Griffith, working with him, Griffiths, and working with him, and so when you got that role back in because the movie came out in '89.
Yeah, I got it in, I guess, 88.
Okay, so you got it in 88. So, and that's after those 2 movies. So when you get that movie, when are you just you got to be on cloud 9? It's the Karate Kid franchise. It's this whole big thing. So, and is that's the one that kind of puts you in the forefront. So what?
Yeah, I mean that was really kind of this plum role that every guy in Hollywood who was appropriate for the role and even not appropriate for the role wanted. And, I got it from an open call, which is insane because an open call is really a publicity stunt. Yep. I mean, to think that you're going to get one of your lead actors for, an internationally successful franchise film from an open call is ludicrous. And, that's how I got hired. And it really, in a lot of ways, is, that $1,000,000 to $1 dream come true story.
And that's what that. I mean, that's what the whole franchise. Even the fact that Avildsen, when that he made his name with Rocky, that whole thing, the way that all plays out, that you could see that someone could get cast that particular way. But the difference with with Zabka and yourself is that when Zabka's out there bullying Ralph Macchio, they're both pretty much kind of up and coming. Sure, Macchio had done Outsiders and other things too, but this was the big role. He's Ralph Macchio at this point. So when you're bullying him and kicking his ass, and I know you're acting, but you still got to be careful with the Golden Boy at that point, right? You got to be careful everything that you're doing. So how did you guys get along on that?
The choreography. The first rule was don't hurt Ralph,
right.
and right so. So I mean, it's not only training, doing martial arts constantly. It's learning the fight choreography, and then making sure that it's not only believable, but nobody gets hurt doing it. So yeah, of course, that was definitely a concern of mine and a concern of everyone else's.
Yeah, and it's like, as you said in the beginning of this conversation, where it's like 30 years later or whatever, and then you're brought back to the role, and it seemed like you didn't seem to have any hesitations with wanting to do it at this point. So it's like, why would you? Because I know that I remember there were some things like, when the show came out, and I've had this conversation many times with the guys, that I'm as you can probably tell, a massive Karate Kid fan. And when it was announced, I said, I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to be able to put enough love into this thing. And I was so happy to be wrong with what they did. But I'm sure actors like Elizabeth Shue, I had heard at one point was like, I don't know if I'm going to go back to the Karate Kid movie. And then she saw what it was like. So I think you're coming in at a very different time when it was like super like successful.
It was already tried and true and tested. And it's just such a testament to John and Hayden and Josh coming from the comedic background that they come from with Harold and Kumar and Hot Tub Time Machine, that it was such a unique way of turning the concept on its head, that I think once people figured out what it was and saw how good it was, pretty much everybody was like, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. It's just the investment is that you can tell. I had spoken to Mary Mouser last week, and what I had said to her was that us as audience, and it doesn't matter if it's television, movies, stand-up comedy, music, if you can tell that the person's heart is not in it, you as an audience will not respond. But on the opposite of that, when it's there, you really respond, and they believe in it, you believe in it.
Yeah. I don't think you should do any project that you're not passionate about. I mean, if you're going to do it to the best of your ability. And I was so stoked to become a part of it that for me, I didn't have to generate any enthusiasm. It was just, kind of flowing off me.
Well, it looks like Barnes is going to get his business back from the
with the Rembrandt.
It looks like he's getting it back.
Maybe a couple, right?
Yeah, it seems like it. So obviously if there is words and you can't say anything about it, I don't want to get you in trouble, but do you feel Barnes would show up in this world again? Let's put it that way.
I think so, absolutely. I feel like he rounds out the gang with Chosen and Johnny. I think he definitely has a score to settle with Terry Silver. Yeah. He certainly could. He's lost his wife apparently, and his furniture store is burned down. Who knows? Maybe this whole thing has reinvigorated his love for martial arts, and Barnes decides to open his own dojo or teach alongside the other guys.
Getting me excited, man. Getting me excited. So
ready. And
you're speaking about Terry Silver, who has ultimately become Emperor Palpatine of this universe. Thomas Heath Griffith, and you worked with him back in that movie, and throughout the years, I said it's kind of similar question I asked. I mean, even though the difference was Zabka, I guess you hadn't worked with him back then, but you did work with Thomas. So had you kept in touch with him at all? Had you talked to him at all, or what was that?
No,
okay.
we didn't keep in touch. It's a funny story. I was having an engagement party with my wife at a restaurant in Hollywood, and we were having a party, and Martin Kove was one of the guests because Marty and I have kept in touch, did a play together. And they came up to me and said, somebody is at the entrance and says they know you and asked to come in. And it was Thomas having dinner with his wife, complete serendipity. And of course it was great to see him and say hi. And we got a great picture together with me, Marty, my wife, Michelle, and Thomas. It was great seeing him, on the set and doing a scene with him again after all these years.
Yeah, it was really cool the way that everyone's kind of been reinvented, and just listening to you talk about like what Barnes could do. And I think that the thing that you said when Barnes has that conversation with Daniel about how he grew up, it's like, well, what's he going to do? Is he going to be the same 17-year-old like asshole that he was back then, or is he going to fight? Yeah, please.
I mean, that wouldn't be interesting for me as an actor, and it certainly, forgive me for speaking for them, but I'm sure it wouldn't be on the radar of the big three because, that's not what they do. I mean, they always come up with something that's interesting and unique. And, there were so many suppositions about Barnes's reentry. Is he Miguel's dad? Is he Tori's dad? Is he going to, he's coming to be a henchman for Silver. And, all I would tell people is whatever you think it is, it's not.
Right.
It's going to be more interesting. And I'm so glad that it was.
Same, and I agree. Was that always the plan for him? Was it always the plan for as long as you knew that was always kind of the plan, or was there ever that mention of, well, what do you think about coming and being him?
I don't know. I mean, the guys kind of, they were so gracious. They had me on a Zoom call, John and Josh, and they sort of, they were very receptive to listening to a little bit about what I had to say. And they said, well, we have this idea, and they mentioned the furniture store, and I truly didn't get it. I mean, I wasn't able to kind of see their vision. And I said, look, guys, who am I to tell you what is going to work in your universe? I trust you completely. Let's do it. And
awesome.
Sure enough, it was great.
Yeah. And
they didn't mention the whole thing about how, Daniel thinks that Barnes is maybe like, some kind of mobbed up guy or whatever, with the circular saw and all that.
Yes.
So all I kind of got was furniture store and it burns down. And I was like, okay. So he's like, kind of like a, family guy. I didn't know. I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out when I see the script.
Right. And that's exactly what happened for sure. And you could see that within this. And coming into a season 5, though, and this is always a question you can ask anybody coming into a show that's been so established, I guess it's a little different because you're already part of the universe. But is it is it intimidating at all jumping into a series that's 5 years in, or is it just like, yeah, let's go, Barnes is back, baby?
I mean, I hope this doesn't sound arrogant because I don't mean it to, but no, it wasn't intimidating. It was exciting. Yeah. I've been acting pretty steadily all along. Of course, I'm on The Bold and the Beautiful. And so, I mean, it's, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And I was more excited than anything else. It was, I realized that I certainly owed it to the audience to bring my A game because they'd waited so long for it. And I just was committed to doing everything I could to make it the best return possible with what they had in mind and what I had to work with.
Well, it worked, and then some.
Thanks, brother.
It really did, because I think that's very similar to what you were talking about before, like the way Chosen was brought in. I think it was season 3. I think so,
yeah.
maybe. And he wasn't. He did the same thing. I think that happened with Barnes. It wasn't in every episode, but he didn't have to be. It's when he was in it, it was impactful, and it benefited from the very end when Daniel learns that move from him against Kreese.
Right.
He's able to do it, and it's the same thing with Barnes. Barnes is like, as you mentioned very earlier before, was that, okay, great, I'm just trying to get my life back. It's like William Wallace. I'm just trying to do my thing, and then I'm thrown back into the fight. But this time, you're taking my aggression, and now it's going to be aimed off for you, the guy who taught me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Joseph Campbell hero's journey. You know what I mean? It's the reluctant hero. Well, he went from the ordinary world into the magical world, and it was great. It was great. I sincerely hope that there's more to come. Yeah,
and that's why I mentioned like there's wrestling into the Star Wars. I see so many of the Star Wars stuff for sure, where you have all those characters. And what I've also seen with Cobra Kai is that, and you already said you'd been seeing it a lot before you were even recast on the show, was that the kind of fandom that is involved with this show already, because the Karate Kid alone had a fandom, but now coupled with this kind of digital age now and the way that with Comic-Cons and all these things, it's got to be. Are there people like, even on Bold and Beautiful, are there people like geeking out trying to get spoilers out of it? Dude,
I mean, okay, first of all, I'll answer that question first. Absolutely. My daughter on Bold and Beautiful is played by an actress named Annika Noel, and she's a martial artist, and she her dressing room is next to mine, and it's like she is so into it.
I love it.
And can't wait for it. And the other day I was at a nearby restaurant we go to on our lunch break at the studio, and the guy had a mask on, and he comes up to me and he goes, Sean, he goes, when's Barnes coming out? And I go, and he pulls the mask down and he's like, I'm the guy that does the boom on Bold and the Beautiful. It's me. And I was like, oh, the crew guys are like teenage boys. Like they're all excited. They're all great and rooting for me and everything. So I it's funny. I go back to work next week on Bold and the Beautiful. So it's going to be great going back after it's aired.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I
was going to say one other thing though. These guys have done something that's really lightning in a bottle, that they've been able to cater to two age demographics, which is really difficult.
Yep.
You laugh at different things when you're 20 than you do when you're 55. And the show has effectively become a magnet uniting families where it's something cross-generationally, people can watch together and both enjoy. And I think that's tremendous.
100%. And that's exactly why, and I had mentioned that many times over, but just most recently with Mary Mouser, is that it is when you have these people who grew up with Karate Kid, who love Karate Kid, and there's certainly people who have watched it on down the line and fell in love with it. I showed my 10-year-old daughter it, and she loved it, right? But my daughter was even more intrigued with watching Cobra Kai because she's a massive Disney fan and she saw Peyton on all these shows.
Oh, right.
And she last night when I was finishing up the series, Peyton's there and my daughter comes out from cinema. She goes, what's that? I want to watch it. I go, I told you we got to watch season 1 first. Go back to bed.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So, but it's because of that, and it's also I'm not getting lost on any of this stuff. Like I like when it comes to the younger generation, I'm very much invested in these characters because of the evolution of the writing. That's why again this fandom that they've created and bringing back people inside of this verse, and it's fun though too. The show is a time like right now with the way the world is. I think it's just a show that's fun.
Yeah, I think we could all use something to laugh at and reminisce about, and for sure. Yeah,
and the last thing I wanted to bring up to you is that you mentioned about how you see all these things and people are kind of getting excited about it, and these people turn into 14-year-old boys. I was that person because I had the privilege of moderating when Netflix is a joke did the Nokia show that Cobra Kai did.
Right.
I moderated that, and
wow.
And so when I was doing it was so surreal, Sean. I got to tell you, I was sitting there talking to Ralph the whole time, and he said, and
you
then
grew up watching.
Yeah, the whole time. And I mean, I had a chance to interview them for a bunch of different times, but this was different, right? I'm sitting there with the cast talking, and then I knew it was coming because I had the agenda for the night, but they're like, Joe Esposito is going to sing You're the Best Around. And I'm there, and I'm standing there with Zapka, and I'm like, how old am I right now? And today I'm talking to Mike Barnes. I mean, it's a crazy life, man. It's a crazy life, and I'm excited.
Well, you know what? It really makes me happy that, it still instills that kind of passion and that kind of, fun in the fans. And I'm just so happy to be a part of it.
Good, brother. I'm so excited for you, and I hope to see more Barnes. And I really wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule today.
Absolutely, man.
I appreciate it.
I hope I get the chance to meet you in person sometime. It's really nice.
Same. All right, brother. Everybody, so once again, check it out. Cobra Kai. If you haven't seen it, we spoiled the shit out of it for you, but make sure you go and check it out. Sean, thank you once again. Appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right. How cool is that, dude? I loved talking to him, man. I loved talking to him, watching him return and come back, and you could see how excited he was to be back in it, and you could tell how he knew. You could just tell once this thing was, he knew eventually he was going to get his call up. Like, when am I coming back? When am I coming back? And he came back, in full force. And they all wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for the dudes who came up with this in the first place. The idea to do this and to make this work and to make it go for 5 seasons. And that, of course, is Hayden Schlossberg, Josh Heald, and John Hurwitz. I've had an opportunity to speak to these guys every time that we've had a season. I think almost every year. I might have missed like 1 year. But since season 1, when they came into Collider, I had an opportunity to talk to them. And they've been very, very generous with their time and always talking to me about it. And we talked about this and more. We don't not only talk about Cobra Kai, we talk about some of their upcoming projects. So here's my conversation that I had with John Hurwitz, Josh Heald, and Hayden Schlossberg, the creators of Cobra Kai, about season 5 and about the other projects they're working on. Here you go. We are a happy Brady Bunch. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited once again. It is now a yearly thing, and I get excited for it every time it happens. It's Cobra Kai time. It's season 5, and I have the creators, ladies and gentlemen, both Hayden Schlossberg, Josh Heald, John Hurwitz. They're all here, and we're going to talk about season 5. Now, what I'm going to warn some people is that I'm going to put a time code, because at one point we'll talk spoilers, but it'll be in the time codes. We're going to start with non-spoilers because I have them here. I got to ask some spoilers. Come on. Gentlemen, once again, 5 seasons in. It ain't easy to do 5 seasons where everybody's having fun and keeping everybody interested. You guys keep setting the bar. Congratulations on a great season. I had a lot of fun watching it. And you did it. You brought Barnes back. Awesome. That was not necessarily a spoiler because there's a picture that was out. So let's start with you, Hayden. So tell me about this season. Now, I know that coming out of the COVID season that you guys had previously, and how I know how jarring and how tough that was for everybody. How was shooting this season as compared to 4 and the up in the air with Netflix and all that stuff?
This season was different in the sense that we had Netflix wanting a season right away, right on the heels of finishing season 4. So we were editing season 4, and they were like, "Let's get going." And so we started a writer's room, really early, and we were writing as we were shooting. It's pretty amazing when you think about, the season 4 dropped basically, it feels like 9 months ago or something like that, or a little over that. And now we have another full 10 episodes. You don't usually get that amount of content in the span of 10 months. So, we've just been working nonstop. We have a game plan in mind, so we were able to jump right into it. But it was it's fun because you have this big streamer that wants you to deliver more content. But it's been a very busy year, to say the least.
I'm sure, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, so John, when it comes to these plans that Hayden said, I remember talking to you guys back in season 1, and you knew kind of a clear-cut sort of idea of where you want to take these characters. So as much as I'm enjoying it, how far can you take it?
We're not at the place where we're allowed to say how far we're taking it. Okay. We've always said that we know where the end game is for a number of the characters. We're still on that path. Season 5 should not be the end of Cobra Kai. That's not the plan. And we're figuring out kind of what's next. We're in the middle of shooting another show at the moment, Obliterated. But we will be back in the Cobra Kai saddle soon enough. But we're at one of those seasons where it was a lot of fun taking some of these characters that have been at each other's throats, for so long, and seeing some different looks for the characters. Terry Silver is a force to be reckoned with, and he's a threat that Daniel sees coming and not everybody else does. And season 5 was about everyone sort of seeing what Terry Silver's vision of Cobra Kai taking over the valley looks like, and how are they going to respond? Yeah,
and Josh, when this came about, when you guys were talking about the Miyagi verse and everything, where the plan of where it was going, and getting Thomas Ian Griffith back, and I bring up Star Wars every time we talk, every time. He's Emperor Palpatine, man. He's turned into Emperor Palpatine. Is that ever a conversation where you're like, because there's tons of Star Wars references in your show now. I mean, and there's Rocky stuff and all that. The Rocky stuff is phenomenal in this episode, and this season, by the way. Well done. But I got to ask you. So was he always? I know that Kreese was always the guy, but was the Silver? Wait until we bring Silver back and watch what he's going to do. Was that always the thing with you guys?
We knew that Silver's introduction would change things. We knew that we had a lot of freedom with that character, given the performance that Thomas Ian Griffith was asked to do in the Karate Kid Part 3, and given just those little story drops of Kreese and Silver's relationship and what that backstory was like, it gave us the most canvas to play with in terms of where does a character like that come from? Where does he go? What makes him tick? We know by now what makes John Kreese tick. We've seen the life lessons that have brought him to that black and white outlook on life. But with Silver, there was much more opportunity to really dig into how he became the way that we knew him in Karate Kid Part 3, how he looked at himself afterwards, and what the slippery slope was in terms of his desires for life. So yes, I mean, we talk Star Wars all the time. It's inescapable. I think even the writers in the writers' room who aren't, you know, the most Star Wars people are now Star Wars people, because it's the battle of good and evil, right? It's the you know, the people in black and the people in white, and you know, Silver is manipulating people beyond even what we thought Kreese was capable of. And I think when he did that rug pull at the end of season 4, it showed, oh, somebody has finally out-Kreesed Kreese. And that gave us such a fun canvas to write to in season 5 in terms of, okay, now that he can run amok, what's he going to do? He's got unlimited resources. He's got this, you know, this thing in his gut and his heart that's telling him to take over the valley. What's possibly going to happen? And the world was his oyster.
And I love that that's something that you guys play with too, because I've said it to you before, like season 1, when we're watching it, had a lot, it was kind of more so, and let me get to this before you don't yell at me. When it comes to the first season, I thought was based more, a little bit more in realism, right? Based off a lot of the stuff that was happening in it seemed more on tone with the movies, right? But then season 2, like I said, when the kids started learning karate pretty quick and all these things started happening, I said it's a shift in tone, but then it was consistent for the entire series. And what this series has consistently been is fun. And yes, you deal with emotional moments, and that's why I went, oh, you know, I knew from second season 2 started, I'm like, this is where they're going with the show, and it stayed consistent. But how do you balance it? And I guess this is a question for all you guys, but how do you balance it from saying, okay, because you guys you're both, obviously we know how skilled you are in the comedy writing, but how do you balance it from saying, okay, I'm going to take it to comedy, I'm going to take it to some really heightened martial arts, but I still got to balance it and make the characters feel real. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. I'll tell you, I have a feeling Stallone had the same situation every time he did a Rocky. Which and I you know, it's always been like a kind of spiritual cousin, you know, franchise to the Karate Kid, and I just feel like you have to go in thinking about the roots of the franchise, what the audience is really like from the original, which is always kind of grounded the most in reality. But when you look at like the Rocky movies, you get to Rocky 3, Rocky 4, and it goes to these crazy places, but then it could also go back to Rocky Balboa, you know, and like, so there's different ways of playing in the world. And I just think, like, you know, by the mid 80s, you know, Rocky had won enough things where he had earned these movies where you needed next level like competitors. And so if you were on that ride, it felt natural, and it could be like kind of at times silly and crazy. But what Stallone did right in those movies is he always cared about the character. It always flowed from the last one. It made sense that, okay, well, what's the challenge in Rocky 3? Well, now he's just a champion and he's kind of getting a little soft. He needs to find that edge, that eye of the tiger. And Rocky 4, okay, well, how do we top that? It's the fucking Cold War, you know.
Yep.
And it goes to a crazy place, but like it's intense, and it's, you know, it capture what the essence of Rocky, the montages, the training, underdog, all that stuff. And so when we go into like a season of Cobra Kai, it's like, what do we love about the Karate Kid? You know, it's the bullies, it's the bullying, it's the underdog story, it's mentor student, it's all these things, and the montages and the training that go along with that. And so it's every season has that same secret sauce, but it just so happens we're in season 5 now, and Terry Silver is in charge, and things can get to a sort of are we in
we can get the spoilers in a sec. I want to,
it can get to crazy places.
Yeah, I'll just say, you know, to add, you know, I don't think the show would be kind of where it is without Karate Kid 2 and Karate Kid 3.
Right.
Because if you look at those movies, they went Karate Kid 2 as a fight to the death. Karate Kid 3 is batshit crazy in a lot of ways.
Right.
So, you know, when it's really coming from a place of character at the start of it, you know, when we bring Terry Silver back, Terry Silver existed in Karate Kid 3, and the kinds of choices that we've made with the character, we feel like we've grounded him in certain ways. You know, certainly in season 4, we got to learn a little bit more about him. but he has a capacity of being able to do exactly what he's doing here. Season 5 is just him realizing his dream from Karate Kid 3. So it's always starting from a place of character. And once you bring those sequel characters in, it gets bigger and crazier. And it is it's a modern TV series. We go big in a lot of spots, but as Hayden was saying, it starts with Johnny acting like Johnny and Daniel acting like Daniel, and the characters acting like acting as they would, as we've known them in the past, and the ones that we've established. And sometimes it gets combustible and leads to crazy battles.
Yeah, which works is what the show is for sure. And John, I got to ask you this too. And if we want to steer away, then that's fine. But something you said earlier, I'd be mad at myself if I didn't ask. We're talking about that you guys certainly want to do another season, and then you mentioned Obliterated and everything. You guys are busy. You guys are really busy. You do it. I mean, there's the Obliterated stuff that was announced. There was the Ferris Bueller kind of spinoff that was announced. You guys are really moving, and I know how much time it takes you on Cobra Kai. Does that blend into the conversations of why maybe that, because you guys are so busy, or is it stuff that maybe because again we hear all this news with Netflix, everything happening with Netflix, they're restructuring and stuff too. So does that play into it, of why we haven't had an announcement on season 6 yet?
No, not at all. I mean, to be honest, we were planning to do Obliterated after season 4 of Cobra Kai, and Netflix really wanted us to get a season 5 of Cobra Kai going quickly, so that we could be in this September slot that we're in for this year. It worked with their scheduling and everything that they were doing, so we were happy to do it. But the discussion at the time was like, right on the heels of that, we'll jump right into Obliterated, which has been amazing. I cannot wait for you to see that.
I want to hear more about it. Can you tell me a little more about it?
Yeah, it's a throwback to it's a combination throwback to those big R-rated summer comedies, the kind of stuff that the three of us have done earlier in our career and still love. But also a throwback to those big summer, action blockbusters. We always say that this is Die Hard meets The Hangover, and we're in our second month of production, and it is definitely those things. It is balls to the wall. It's not something that you'd bring the children to.
Okay.
This is a hard R-rated show, but it is so much fun. It is a mashup of genres that we think works really, really well, and we're loving that. But there will be more Cobra Kai. That has been part of the reason why there hasn't been an announcement about a Cobra Kai season 6, because we've been all talking about the schedule to do one and make sure that we're entering Cobra Kai ready to rock. But there may be, as a result of this, it's no secret we're in September now. We're in the middle of shooting this other show, so there might be a little bit longer of a wait for Cobra Kai than we'd all like, but we are going to be hustling, and we've been already talking about where we're going from here. And it's the future of Cobra Kai is bright. I would say.
The good thing with Obliterated is, it's Sony and Netflix, and so it's the same companies. Yeah. And so we just talked to them about look, we want to give Obliterated that Cobra Kai treatment where it's the three of us in the writing, and we give it that attention, but we know what we need to do with Cobra Kai and the attention we need to give that. And so they've been able to space things out in a way, and part of that was getting season 5 out a little faster, and now we're focused on Obliterated, and we're hoping to get focused on Cobra Kai very soon.
All right, and Josh, before I get into the spoilers, I want to do that next. But with the mention of the Ferris Bueller spinoff, also now the thing that I thought Cobra Kai had and again, we've talked about this many times over. It's still there was a major hurdle with that. It was like, okay, how are people going to respond to this coming back? And then obviously, well, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do this hard. We're going to do it with heart. We're going to do it with blending generations, and it obviously worked out. Here we are talking about season 5, but with the Ferris Bueller thing, the thing that I find interesting and I'm curious about is it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about the valets who go out and they have their adventure. The thing is that obviously we're going to need new actors to play the roles, unless we're doing deep fake. I'm not sure, but and all of that throughout that, is it going to be a tougher hurdle to climb because there's not as many relatable things that pulled us in the way the Cobra Kai did?
I don't think so. I mean, for us, approaching this idea is similar to the way we approach anything, that has a ton of nostalgia for us and for a huge fandom. And that's not to break the thing that already exists. We are not looking to remake Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the same way we were not looking to remake The Karate Kid. We're looking to turn the camera. And, you know, with Cobra Kai, it's turning the camera on, you know, a character and following that character later in life. With this, it's literally looking at the same day. And what a special day that was. You know, most people who, you know, have seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off have seen it more than once. You know, we've seen it, you know, 100 times. And it got our minds moving, you know, when you start thinking about what could make somebody take that car. And yeah, it could be just, oh, it's just a joyride and they went, you know, and they got some burgers and they came back. But what if it wasn't? You know, what if there's a really deep story to tell there where the car is just part of it? And, you know, the car might be the biggest part of it. It might be the catalyst of, you know, that causes some big, you know, story awakening or character moment. But we love that challenge. We love setting a story in a storied day in Chicago history and getting to potentially see parts of that city and that experience that we haven't seen yet, and maybe some overlap with things that we have, but with none of it, you know, taking any respect or appreciation away from what Ferris Bueller's Day Off already did. We're not looking to redo it. We're looking to see, can we also tell a story within that time? Can we add to it in a way that doesn't cause, you know, you to have to look at that movie in a completely different way and say, oh, now they're acting like this happened and that happened. Like, you know, we're not that kind of storyteller. We love the art that exists, and we want to be part of the party.
Well, you know, I'll be looking forward to it for sure. So I'm excited for you guys on both of those projects, but let's talk spoilers. Let's get it. So you've all been warned. Now, if you haven't, obviously, if this comes out on the 9th, the series comes out on the 9th. So go ahead and make sure you check it out, binge it, come back and let's talk about it. So you've been warned. All right. You know, I just mentioned as I was teeing up that series, I mentioned deep fakes. There has been really great deep fakes. And I think one of those, as we mentioned, was Star Wars. I just watched Samaritan recently. Not so good. The movie's fine. The movie's fine, but the deep fake. So when I saw Johnny Lawrence deep fake, I went, oh, and then it looked great. It looked so good. I was so excited. What was the thought process of using what? First of all, was it deep fake or was it the de-aging? I think it was deep fake, right?
It was deep fake. Yeah.
Okay.
We you know, when developing that sequence in the writer's room, we thought about all the meaningful people in Kreese's life that we've met so far, you know, in series and the movies that might have something to say to him and might, you know, be part of his, whether it's a moment of clarity or a mental break. And, you know, every suggestion and every, you know, hand raise of like, ooh, Betsy should be in there. Oh, you know, Turner, we could bring back Terry Serpico. Oh, young Kreese. But it was like, can we have young Johnny, you know, say something to him? How can we do that? Well, you know, we've seen some of these deep fakes and we've seen the criticisms of the ones that didn't work out. And we asked our post team, can we do this? But if we do it, we're going to want to really nail it. We're going to want to get ahead of it. You know, we have a VFX supervisor on set. You know, we hire, you know, an actor to sit in as something on camera that has enough facial bone structure that gets you, you know, 50% of the way there in terms of a base. And then you let the masters do their work. And we just gave tons of notes and didn't accept the first version and didn't accept the 5th version or the 6th.
We were pretty neurotic about it. I think
we were tweaking it on the mixing stage still.
I was willing to accept a half-ass version of it. I was pretty
impressed. Yeah, Hayden early on was like, "This looks great."
Are you kidding? And
this is going to be a disaster.
And then his voice, you know, we had to dial in his voice. We were dialing that in until yesterday. It feels like,
It was great. I mean, really look at, and I am one of those assholes that's very picky about it. So I'm glad that you took the work on it, because it looked really good. And what I thought was impactful about it is that sure, you could have, and you did have the Johnny as we see him now in the seat, and it has an impact, but it has so much more of an impact when you see him young, because it's like of the meaning of the relationship that they had and the way that Kreese saw him, the way that Johnny saw him, and that almost like innocence before that bully that we saw, the troubled kid is sitting there. You feel that impact, and you're not distracted by, oh, that looks terrible. You're like, oh shit, that's young Johnny Lawrence. So it absolutely was great. The question and it's got to be a tough thing for creators in general, because when you get that down, and you do have great actors that are playing the young Silver and the young Kreese, is there ever a thing in your head that goes, well, maybe we could do the young Kreese and young Silver as, deep fake as well?
I don't know. We've been we're happy with the actors that we've had, for those roles, and we've done young Johnny before, but younger Johnny. This was the first time you're seeing the exact age range that we saw in the original Karate Kid for it. So we went for it. Fortunately, it turned out, and at least it passed your test.
Passed the Harloff test, yeah.
Nice. I hope audience the audience at large responds favorably as well. We're really excited about it, but we do talk about the the deep fake world and this kind of thing, doing this kind of thing on other projects or at other times, just in general. It's really a phenomenal technology that continues to get better.
And we love finding young actors that can nail those younger roles. I mean, young Sato was, just a dream to see that take shape.
Middle-aged Sato, younger.
Middle-aged Sato. That's
middle-aged Sato.
It's the truth. And look, so speaking of that, and speaking of, you guys remember back in the day when I kept asking, where's like everyone else, but where's Chosen? Where's Chosen? And when he showed up in Okinawa, it was very powerful. But man, he steals the majority of stuff that he's in. He's so great in this series. But the thing I love the most, and I can only imagine what it was like with the three of you guys talking, going, all right, how great is it going to be that if we see not just Chosen fight Barnes, but then all the bullies then Chosen and Daniel Chosen and Johnny will have a conversation together, and then Barnes will come in, they'll fight together. It's like all the bullies thing. That had to have been a conversation with you guys.
It was the dream. This was literally the dream. It was season 5 more than anything. Is if you're a fan of the Karate Kid franchise and you love all those movies, it's like we brought out and they're all playing with each other and mingling in ways that you fantasized about, seeing, Chosen and Barnes pop off, unexpectedly in the moment that they have. And then the finale was something that was just total fun for us. Working with all of these actors, Yuji has crushed it from the moment we started working with him, obviously Ralph and Billy, but Sean Kanan came in and he was ready to play. He came in and he was awesome. We looked for ways to give a taste of the bad boy and make him a bad man in certain ways, but also make him a character that's progressed outside of this world in a way that maybe some of our other characters haven't. But he got dragged back into the muck with the rest of them, and we loved him as a catalyst for that finale. And yeah, when we have Daniel's 3 bullies from the first 3 movies ditch him on the side of the road and go off to storm Terry Silver's castle. That's basically that's fan fiction at its most ridiculous.
It was my favorite thing in that moment is Johnny's 180-degree turnaround on Barnes. He meets Barnes, he assaults him, and this guy just basically kidnapped them, and just bad boy doesn't look so bad to me. And within the course of about 35 seconds, he's like, the bad boy's right. Let's do this. And he's giving him respect. And they're going off to fight hand in hand. And it just works.
Those two lived in the same era in '84. They would have been in the same squad. Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it worked brilliantly for sure. And I think that, so, Hayden, I had just interviewed Sean. And one of the things I asked him was, because he had said he didn't want to just come back and play the typical villain again. He'd kind of done that already. And then, so what I want to know from you guys is, was it ever a thought of bringing Barnes in as just the bad guy again? Or was it always the plan to have him like redeemed the same way that Johnny and Chosen kind of were? Was that always the plan from the start?
The plan was to do something different with him that we haven't seen yet. Every single character that's been involved in Daniel's life, had some traumatic experience around 1984, 85, and we play with, what their reaction is to that and how they managed like later in life. And with Johnny, it's obviously something that, he's still tied to, and it affects his life. With Chosen, it does, but he's kind of made up with Daniel in his own mind. And I think, with Barnes, we wanted somebody who was just like, he had moved on, like a lot of people would. And so it's relatable But we like that, like in some ways he's the most adjusted out of everybody, but he gets like brought into their crazy, karate war. And so, yeah, it was just a result of having, framed, Johnny and Chose in different ways that we were like, what's different for Barnes? And that was it.
Yeah. And also, going back to how we talked about it earlier, that the absurdity of whether it was Karate Kid 3 or the fight to the death and those types of things. But what was great about it, you guys did it in season 4 with Terry Silver when he was like, "What? I was coked out of my mind, and I did this, and I was trying to take a kid and beat up this kid and do this." You kind of do the same thing in this season when it comes to Johnny and Chosen, when they're having that moment when they're like comparing, first of all, they're comparing what they did to Daniel, the horrible stuff they did to him, and then they switch, and then they talked about like the cool stuff they saw him do, which I thought was a really great moment as well. So when it comes to that stuff, like what is it like? Is it the fandom? Is it still? That's probably the question I want to ask you, John. And is it still there? Like that because I know it's work. Is that passion, that love that you guys had for it when you work, because it's work and all the other stuff you're doing, is that crazy love that for the franchise, is it still there?
We love it more. I mean, like it's definitely there, but we've been lucky that like everybody that we've met from that franchise who has been on the show, they're all game and they're all in and they're ready to play. And when we have these new opportunities to pair different characters up with one another, it's just exciting for us, and it's exciting to collaborate with all of them. It's looking at Barnes coming in and Chosen coming in, they inspire us further. So when making the choices that we were making this season, it was, partly inspired by our own storytelling, partly inspired by getting to know these guys and wanting to write more towards them. When we did season 3 and we worked with Yuji there, I don't think we knew for sure that Yuji would return in the capacity that he did. We knew where we're going with Johnny and Daniel in certain bigger strokes ways, but it was really having that experience working with Yuji and seeing how funny he was and seeing how badass he was and how kick-ass he was and how putting him and Daniel together gave us goosebumps, and we knew that there'd be new goosebumps by bringing these other characters together and these different combinations.
And that's you definitely see it. I'm glad to hear it. And you can definitely see it, by the way, that the passion is still there. And Josh, it's funny. My daughter now is almost 11 years old, which is nuts. And yeah, it's nuts. And so what I realized even more so, because I want to talk about the younger generation as well inside of the show. And what I'm realizing more so is the reason why this show is going to continue to move on, even if you guys do 50 seasons of this thing, and still people are going to keep watching it, is because of this reason alone. My daughter has been watching and binging this show Jessie on Disney. And
my son as well.
Right.
It's same age.
Yeah, my daughter
found at the same time. Yeah.
And then right afterwards, there's like this camp thing that happens that they all go to. And so she's watching. She was sick. She stayed home. She watched it religiously. So I'm watching Cobra Kai. And she walks out. She sees Peyton, and she stops in her tracks, and she goes, "She's in Cobra Kai, right?" And I was like, "Can we watch it right now?" I'm like, "You haven't even watched season 1 yet." I'm like, "Just yes, we will." But automatically, I said, "That's why this show is also working the way it's working, is because you have this younger generation. She's so good in it because Peyton and Tori changes dramatically in this one. Talk about like a turn what Barnes did." She's having this turn because she's having this inner turmoil after the tournament. So Josh, with focusing on these characters and knowing, because we know the Barnes stuff, we know how important that stuff is in bringing in the classic characters, but the focus on the younger characters, how much do you actually, do you lean on the actors themselves sometimes to be able to, because we're all in the same age range. You might be able to look into the mind of a 15, 16, 17-year-old girl, like, do you wind up talking to the cast a lot as well?
We talk to them, and we try to remember, what that's like. In high school, it seems like every single day is the most important day of your life, and every decision, feels like life and death because of the social hierarchy and the stressors of what's my life going to be like when I graduate? What are the expectations, that I have for myself, that my parents have for myself? What's my family life like? who doesn't like me, who does like me, who do I like, who can't I be with? We kind of remember all that. Like, I feel like everything the guys and I have ever written has a degree of high school politics in it, in terms of, whether it's, jock and nerd, at its most basic, place, but we also kind of lean into what these kids are going to. We kind of spy on them from time to time, as they're not working. What are they doing? Oh, like these guys are playing Magic the Gathering together. Oh, these two are doing this. And you see these dynamics at work, some of, which haven't changed, in the past 25 years. Yeah. And some of which are totally new in terms of social media and how seriously that's taken and how it means something if, so-and-so is my friend, but they didn't like my post. And we didn't live through that, but we can lean into that and we can extrapolate from that something that we did live through in terms of, so-and-so didn't come to my party or my sleepover, and so there are these universal themes, and we try to really rely on the universal themes as much as possible. So even if you are our generation, you can still get deeply invested in the high school storyline. And it doesn't feel like, okay, here's a bunch of high school kids talking about stuff that I don't care, because they're, we found the Karate Kid when we were 6 years old, and we still got invested in Daniel's first love, even though we didn't really know what that meant yet, because it was just, there was something kind of pure and innocent about it. And we try to always live in that on this show when it comes to crushes and love triangles and just the stress of being that age. There's a lot on these kids' shoulders, and now they have a karate war on top of that. So it's quite a bit. Yeah.
And last question before I get you guys out of here, because of this going off of that, Hayden. So when it comes to, you had Johnny and Daniel for the first couple seasons, and they could never get on the same page. And now there's only so long you can do that, obviously. And now they're on the same page, and they're friends, right? So that was also, I guess, the case with both Robbie and Miguel. And it looks like that finally happened in the way that they have this almost fight to the death. It almost seems like it's going to happen in the way that it's brought back. But it was, again, I think wasn't always a plan type of question. But did you know that it had to finally subside and get them on the same page, because there's only so long that they're going to wind up killing each other?
Well, it's a combination of wanting Johnny and Daniel's rivalry to shed light on the new generation so that they don't repeat the same mistakes. So we know that we wanted that to happen. And then also, who knows what we have planned, for season 6. It may be one of those situations where, everybody has to, enemies have to get together and to get ready to take on the White Walkers, and it's all happening at the perfect time.
Who will sit on the karate throne?
That's right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's always about, figuring out what's the big obstacles for our characters. And it's really, when you're at the age they're at, it's like they're on the verge of graduating high school. There's some big life things left, and emotional things that have nothing to do with, high school rivalry, which is not the only thing that's going on in Karate Kid. It's also the mentor-student relationship. And so there's still a lot to play out with these characters. And, but yeah, no, it's satisfying that, a lot of these rivalries, they found a way to work together going into the next season.
Well, it's a good setup, obviously, for the next season, but it's also another great season. Very hard to do 5 really, really fun, entertaining, and character-driven series. So congratulations once again on a hit series. And I look forward for more people seeing it. And I look forward for us to do this again. And I look forward to doing it on the other shows as well, too, because you guys are really busy, and I'm very excited to see what's coming next.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kristian.
Always fun.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So once again, that's John Hurwitz, Josh Heald, and Hayden Schlossberg. And if you didn't know, this is a supersized Cobra Kai episode. Not only did we have Sean Kanan, we had Mary Mouser, and now we had the guys. So supersized episode. Go and check it out. It's on Netflix right now. Thanks again. Here you go. Now, was that a full episode or what? I told you, full episode. D23 talk, Cobra Kai up the wazoo, and even more. There's so much stuff that we did here today. So do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. I hope I earned it today. All that stuff, this big mega episode, I hope I earned it. So do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think of the episode. Let me know what you think about it in general. Let's have a full conversation, whether it's the D23 stuff, Cobra Kai, any of it. Go ahead and comment. And thank you guys so much for joining me here today. And thank you to Carbon Health as well. That's it, everybody. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the flip side. It is the big thing. Let's get out of here.